In this video, I am going to show you how to use rim templates. We have a couple different rim template options. The main popular two is this poppy, and this is 9.5, and this is the poppy or daisy 9.5. So both are really nice to make kind of elegant, formal dinnerware. And as you can see, they have holes here, hole here, and so we can attach these together with a spacer here. And so even if you want to make these by hand, you can drape the clay over top and then use a cutting tool to cut the clay along this edge. So let me demonstrate. First, you want to roll out a slab of clay and make the clay so it's a little about an inch larger than the template that you're going to be using. Take a yellow mud tools rib and compress your slab, eliminating all the canvas marks from the slab. This ensures that the slab has been equally attended to and allows those clay particles to be compacted in this way that's going to maintain its shape. You can hold and press a little bit if you want to eliminate the lines. There we go. And if you want to make sure that it's centered, we can kind of feel here, it looks like it's slightly off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw a line here, and this will help me to line up, find out where the center of this piece is. Kind of do it by eye. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see it's just maybe slightly off, but that's okay. So we'll eliminate our little line here by just pressing into the clay, and it erases that mark. Okay. So as we have this centered, we can then add our desired rim template on here, and you could really change the sides. You could use a 10.5 if you like. That would give you an additional ½ inch. Or kind of the one I like to use that I feel like the standard size is 9.5. So once we have this key attached to the top and all in place, we can then add the top of the spacer here and do a little flip. Hold the spacer in place, the key, make sure that it has draped down on top of the form, and then remove, slip that off the side. Now we can feel where this little locating groove is, and we can add it to our pin, push it to the end, rotate, and drops right down in place. Now again, 3 levels of pressure. Soft is the first one. We're going to softly kind of drag this clay towards the form. This will help ensure that it maintains its level of thickness. And then we're going to use the medium. And we're going to press all the way down the end. And when we get out the end, press a little bit firmer, because that's what's holding everything in place, is this clay outside of everything. Now what we're going to do is, third level, is we're going to use the rib to evenly compress, eliminating all of the canvas marks. Be really careful with this edge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut outside of our lip here. We're going to cut a strip of clay for our foot. Like a nice thin foot. Makes you kind of feel delicate and formal. And I still have a little clay on there to hold everything in place. But we can remove the clay, extra clay. We can then add this to the bottom here. Now we can take our moist sponge, kind of moisten the surface slightly, and then once we do that, we can push from the inside pressure to kind of get that strip of clay into center. Once it's in place, we can then push from the top. Then we can push from the side. Now we can take our JA20 tool and press into this inside part. Maybe eliminate a little of this clay off from here. A bit. There we go. You can press down. And now what we can do is we can use a variety of different tools. You can even use a knife or a pin tool. My recommendation is this Dirty Girl slingshot, but it's really nice to use a wire. Even this beveling tool will work to cut the outside edge. So what we can do is now push into the inside here, into the form, and we can follow that wood, just pressing up against that wood to kind of help us to have a consistent cut. And this will ensure that every plate that you make, these rim templates will help make sure that you develop that same edge over and over and over again. There we go. Now, as you can see, the rim template has these little lines here. What we can do is we can push against the form, help evenly release the rim template from our slab. Now what we can do is take one of our spacers and we can press down this outside edge. This creates a nice angle to help us to kind of maintain that nice lip of the plate. I also like with these poppy ones is to take my finger and just kind of press in where there's each of the little grooves. This helps to kind of give a nice consistent movement of your plate. There we go. Now we can set this off the side and let dry for 4 to 6 hours, depending on your moisture content. So this dried for 12 hours, a little bit more than I would like, but it created a nice kind of consistent plate for us here. So we can just set aside the form and the template. Because this one's kind of dry, what I'm going to just use is my trimming tool. And depending on the tool you use depends on the moisture content of the clay. This one, because it's so dry, it'll glide. It's nice and sharp. It'll glide right along that kind of rough surface and kind of remove that and soften that edge for us. I don't use a sponge because the clay has grog in it, but you could do that as well. Ideally, I would have liked it a little bit less dry, but then I could use this tool to kind of soften up this edge as well. So it's a really quick cleanup. And if you're using a fine particle clay, you could just use a sponge to kind of clean up that edge. This edge on the outside, the back side is already kind of smooth, but here we have our finished plate. I'll let this dry completely to bone dry, so there's no moisture. Then I can enter in my kiln. Thanks so much for watching, and this concludes using a rim template and a 7-inch slim.